Hey, Chicago athletes, Mandi Florip here, editor of Chicago Athlete Magazine. And today I am joined by one of my friends and racing partners, Fredricka Holloway. Very interestingly, the last time we raced together was my last in-person race before everything shut down at the Chicagoland Area Runners Association, Kara's Honda's Miles Per Hour event at McCormick Place. It was the first time they did that. And we shared the start line together and participated in that race. And that's actually the last time I've seen you. Normally, we race together several times, especially in the summer and fall, but with the shutdown, we've only been able to see each other via Zoom. But I read an article about the lack of diversity in the sport of triathlon, and I immediately thought of Fredricka because she is kind of our queen, our Chicago athlete queen of triathlons. Most of us just run or just bike, but her talent encompasses all three. So I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, is this true?" And she said, "Yes, absolutely." And I asked her if we could talk about this somewhat hard subject. So the article stated that only 0.5% of participants in the sport of the triathlon are African American, which seems like a very, very small number. So I want to talk to you first about if you see this lack of diversity in the sport that you have come to love and come to be a part of.
Definitely. So hi, thanks for having me. Let's get to see you again. Yes, that is true. That is something that still is prevalent. So I've been doing triathlon since 2007. And when I first got into the sport, there were not a lot of people that looked like me. I felt very much like, oh my gosh, do we do this? And it definitely has grown. I do see more, in particular, African Americans. I see, just different people with different abilities in the sport and different backgrounds, but that is something that I don't see promoted a lot, and that was one of the things that really kind of catapulted kind of like my mission in the sport in the last 14 years that I've been doing it. So it is still very much a work in progress, in trying to, one, have more diversity in the sport, but then also it being kind of showcase like, hey, we are here. There's a lot of, people who are doing the sport, just not as many as, we'd like to see.
So tell me what you're doing to try to drive that interest and bring diversity to the sport.
Right. So one thing, I definitely leverage my social media. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. And when I first started, I was like posting, practice, all these different things. And people would see me, family, friends, and they're like, oh, that's cool. Even if they weren't trying to do a triathlon, it encouraged them to be active and be healthy because I was always posting about it. It's unusual now because I've been doing it for so long. At one point I felt like I'm bragging on myself, like, okay, I've done 50 million races. I don't need, and I actually had to have a friend tell me, yes, we need you to keep posting because there's still more people that need to be introduced to just being active and the sport overall and what it is, like, what does a triathlon look like? So I definitely share that, and social media does give me the medium to share with so many people. I actually look forward to like mentoring people in the sport. So I'm always talking to people, especially people who are runners. It's like, you've already got 1/3 of it down. Don't be shy.
Yeah,
if
I've
anything,
heard that
the swim, yeah, right. The swim can be intimidating, but I tell them, like, I was the same way. Like, I kind of knew how to swim when I was younger, but I did not, like, there's playing in the pool and there's swimming. And then there's swimming laps and there's swimming out in the open lake and things like that. So there was a progression. And I tell people, like, I had that same journey, those same fears. Every now and then it creeps up every now and then, you're in Miami, these big waves and it's like, ah. But I think that's relatable and that encourages people to actually try it. And then, really just leveraging other things that I do, connecting other people, other groups, other entities, so that you're aware that this is something that, you know, we can shine a light on. And the more we do, the more we can change. Just even speaking to swimming. So in a lot of like the Black communities, they're not access to pools like you would see them in a lot of the suburbs. And then there's still like this intimidation around water and swimming in the Black community. I know many of my family members did not learn how to swim, or there's just this fear of water. But how do we teach our young, children, like, hey, take classes and get over that? So those are just some of the barriers, and being able to address those barriers is one way that I feel like I can contribute to actually seeing more diversity in the sport.
And I have to toot our horn. You have been a writer for Chicago Athlete and a Chicago Athlete ambassador. And if anybody looks back at your column, you write in a manner that's very easy to read. And it is very relatable. You're not using code words or concepts that are foreign. So I think your personality is just such a natural fit for encouraging more diversity. Have there been any barriers that you've faced in the sport of triathlon, or feelings of discomfort because everyone doesn't look like you?
Initially, I did, just because it was, like you said, you feel more comfortable when you see more people that look like you. Actually, my best friend, she actually was a marathoner and triathlon, and when we did it together, actually, I helped volunteer at one, and that motivated me. So obviously, when you know somebody that encourages you, I'm like, if you could do it, I can. So the following year, I'm like, I want to try this. So that's the same thing. Like, I want to be able to foster other people, like, you can do this too. And being able to, that helps bring more people into the sport. And it definitely, helps, again, further address that this is something that we can tackle, not just one by one, but even just broad strokes as well.
Yeah, we all have that friend that we hated that got us like to sign up for that thing. And then you're midway through, I was at like mile 14 of my first marathon, like, oh, I hate you so much. But then you finish. And I think
yes.
that camaraderie is so important. What was your first?
I was just going to say, I have had some people who have fought me on it, but then once they did it, and they were like, oh, why didn't I do this sooner? And I tell them, you're going to fall in love with it. So yeah, that's definitely. Sorry, what was your question?
Yeah. What was your first triathlon?
My first triathlon was Danskin. It was an all-women's one that took place in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. And it was all women. It was sponsored by Danskin. So it was very friendly. Like, mid-swim, I kind of had a panic moment, and that's where they had swim angels, where you had noodles, and they could hand you a noodle so you could finish. So, a few of the ladies were like, she needs a noodle, and then I got back comfortable, and then I gave it back. I was like, okay, I got this. But it was just very much the camaraderie of women together, so that made me feel comfortable. Whereas, not to say that women can't be competitive, but a lot of times with, the mixed, and just regular triathlons, like, people can be brutal. They're going for the PR, and they'll swim over you. Like Chicago Tri, seeing one of my friends do that the first year, I was like, I'm never going to do that, because they were just so intense. And then the last few years, that's one of my go-to races. So, yeah.
Yep, and that'll be back on your list once everything gets back to normal. Have you seen you've done this for more than a decade, have you seen it change? Has it gotten better? Has it gotten more inclusive? Are you seeing more diversity in the sport, or is that still something that we're lacking?
Like I said, it is getting better, but it's still, like I said, there's less than 0.5% of African-American triathletes. So that's very telling. So it's not enough, at least for me. But it has gotten better. In particular, I think the supports around it. So I'm a part of quite a few cycling groups, run groups, not as much swim groups, but tri groups. And that helps bring diversity. There's groups like Black Girls Run, Black Chicago Runners, Misfits, Major Taylor cycling, the cycling group. There's a lot of cycling groups where, again, I get to see people who look like me and feel supported. There are things that I'm still learning today about cycling that, my buddies are actually telling me about, like configuring my bike. And so that helps me get faster, helps me feel more confident. So when you see someone out there that's been doing it for years, that are like the Lance Armstrongs of cycling and in the tri world, it helps you feel a little bit more confident, and more like, hey. And then, like I said, with swimming, in particular, there's a guy, we call him like the godfather of triathlons in Chicago, Bernard Lyles. He's been actually teaching youth and sponsoring triathlons for years. So to me, again, being able to teach younger kids not to be afraid of the water so that they learn, and a lot of his group will do Chicago Tri, the actual kid tri, the day before, and so he's training them. So that's how you're going to impact change and see more of people that look like me in the sport. So I do think those are some of the things, and that's taking place probably across the nation, but again, being able to see that highlighted so that there is a change and people are seeing it and can contribute more to seeing the diversity in the sport.
That's amazing. And I'll look forward to following up with you when life gets back to normal, and maybe we can, talk more about these things that are happening. But real quick before we go, tell everybody where they can find you on social media, because you do have great social sites.
Yes, thank you. And I look forward to writing some more. I'm on social media. Fredricka Holloway is my name on Facebook. I have two names. One, Nyasha, which is the name that's been given to me, on Instagram and Twitter. And then I also use Freddie Nyasha. That's Fredi. Nyasha, Nyashia. And I do tweet. I do Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, not as much. I haven't gotten into the TikTok thing yet.
No.
But, I definitely like to, I like to have the opportunity to write and share my story. And again, speak that plain language, so that people understand, I'm a human being just like everybody else. And having fears, it's like, if I can do it, anyone can. So
I love that. I think we're going to close it out right with that. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.